So here's the story, Maury. My 2010 Jeep Wrangler quit blowing cold air out of the AC outlets. And this happened last year in the spring. And I put a charge on it, charged it with some Freon, and it cleared it right up and worked all summer. Worked this spring, and here this week, it wasn't putting out cold air like I thought it should, and I measured the temperature at the vents, and it was 68, 69 degrees at 85 degree outdoor temperature, and that's not enough. So I figured it needed charged again, and it had a little leak, very small leak. I could tell where it was leaking. It was leaking at the blocks that go into the radiator cooler coil. Let me show you where they're at. So it's this block right here. I've taken and cleaned the tubing all off, but those two, I guess they're aluminum tubes or steel tubes, they had a lot of oily residue, not a lot, but they had oily residue on both tubes. And that's the only place that I see a leak. The line's clean here. It's clean back here on the wall where it goes into the coils inside the cab. They're clean down here. So this has got to be the leak, and it's probably the O-rings. They have little O-rings in there. But it's not a bad leak. And rather than bleed the whole system down and fool with it, I thought it'd be better off to just put another charge on it and last another year or so. That's when I ran into problems. So what problem did I run into? Well, let me show you. This tube that fits on the suction connection on the air conditioner, and this goes on the can of coolant, refrigerant. 134A is what I use, Freon, and it's a pretty simple process. And I had used it the same thing last year on one of these cans. Well, when I tried to use it this year, I had two of them. Let's see, I have another one over here. I had a full one, and I had a partially full one from the last time. So I put this, screwed this on the can, hooked it up to the car, the suction fitting, just like I always did. I've done it 2 or 3 times now on other vehicles, and nothing would go into the system from the can. What's going on here? I couldn't figure it out. And I did some testing back and forth. And there's a valve in here that when you put this on the suction fitting, it depresses, pushes down on that little pin there and that ring down in there, and opens that valve up. There's a valve there that's closed right now. It opens up when you put it on. And there's this pin here that depresses the button in this can and lets the coolant into the line, out into the cooling system. Well, try as I might, I could not get gas to go from here to here when it was on the can. I could depress this fitting and blow in here and it would come out. Put it on the can, nothing. So I started thinking I had a problem with this end. I thought this needle must not be coming out far enough to depress the button in the can. And I tried, there's a little rubber washer in there. I tried trimming it down so it wasn't quite as thick. I thought maybe it wasn't coming out, and it's depressed all the way now. No, not quite. Let me turn it in. There. It's screwed in all the way, and that's as far as it sticks out. It's maybe a 1/16 of an inch. But the threads go down on the can, so what could be going on? I worked and worked and worked with this thing. I filed off this upper part. I thought maybe it wasn't going down far enough. There's a conical seat behind that rubber washer, brass seat, that a bevel on that shaft seats into, so when it's down all the way, it seals the can off. So you have to screw that down and then back it off a little bit. Well, no matter what I did, I could not get Freon from here to here. So I finally said, well, I guess I've got to order another hose. And when I went online to order the second hose, it's a more complicated, nicer setup than this. It's got valves and fittings, different fittings and so forth. Costs $26, I think, on Amazon. But anyway, in the description it said that it had fittings for both self-sealing cans, which this is. It's got a little valve in there that gets pressed down, and when you remove this, that seals the can and you don't have to let it on there. And then there are fittings for cans that must be punctured, and they don't have that little valve in them. They come with no hole there, and when you put this on and turn it down, that pin makes a hole in the top of the can. And what I have is a hose made for puncture cans, not for this type can. And that's the problem. Apparently, once you put this on and puncture the can, you have to leave it on the can if you don't use it all to seal the can. This, you can take the hose off and the can seals itself. So that's why I'm making this video. It's for informational purposes. If you run into this problem, that's what's going on. Apparently, the reason I could use this can last year and it wouldn't work this year is because that little valve in there, if you see, it's plastic, and there's a hole in it from this pin. Apparently last year that hole wasn't as pronounced, maybe it wasn't there at all, and it pushed the pin down enough that I got Freon out of it and charged the system. But now the pin made the hole deep enough that it wouldn't push the pin down it would push it down, and I would get a little bit of gas just right in this area here, but not in the hose. And then as soon as I backed it off, because it wasn't depressing the valve anymore, I had no Freon. So if you run into this problem, that's what's going on. You have to have the right connector for the right can. If it has that sharp pin, it's for a can that needs punctured. I don't know. I haven't gotten the other setup yet. It's coming in the mail tomorrow, but I would imagine it's maybe a little longer and flat so that it doesn't bore a hole into the end of that valve and then you can't use it but one time. So I'll show you that when it comes tomorrow and let you know how it works. Okay, so here's the new kit that I got from Amazon. You can see it's a much better arrangement. The coupler that goes on the suction fitting is metal with ball bearing grabbers in there, and it just popped right on. It goes on much easier than that plastic one I had. It comes with this valve with the pin in there that depresses the sealed, self-sealing R134A, and it even says right on the valve, R134A. It comes with another valve, which is not marked. The difference being it's got a fine thread in there instead of a coarse thread. So I'm assuming that works on the older Freon. And the kit also comes with this valve, and as you can see, that's a sharp pointed pin like I had on the first hose adapter that I was trying to use with the resealable cans. This is for cans that you puncture one time and then you have to leave the valve hooked up to keep the remaining gas in the can. And this valve, of course, screws on the hose to replace the valve that's for the R134. If you have the R134 in the puncturable can, you have to use this valve here. And I'm not sure what these things are for. They're little, look like some kind of side clamps that go on. Maybe if you, I don't know, need to make your own connection to the suction line or something. I didn't open them up, but it's got a I guess it's probably 3 foot of hose, which makes it a whole lot easier. You don't have to stand on your head in the vehicle under the hood while you're working. I think it was $29. I just charged the Jeep up, and it seems to be throwing nice cold air now. I'll start it up here. Give it a minute. Let me roll the windows up. And oops, gotta turn it on. That one's up. Close the back. Jump inside. Turn the radio on. Put the other window up. The reason the windows and doors were all open, you're supposed to charge it on high fan speed, coldest setting, recirculating cabin air with the doors and windows open. That way it makes the compressor run all the time. Okay, let's start her up and turn it on recirculate. Oh boy, that feels nice and cold. Let's see what it's, if you've ever seen one of these. 70.5 degrees right away. That one's 74. And if we run a little bit, it'll cool down even more. Okay, she's dropped to 62.4 degrees Fahrenheit. What's this one reading now? 61.5. This one over here, 63.1. And this one, 65. And it'll get colder as now it's down to 57 on there. So you can see it'll get down to around, there's 55. It'll get down to around 50 to 55 degrees, and that's plenty of cold air to keep your cabin warm. Even, you know, right now it's a 78 degrees outside, so well, not outside, in my garage, 78 degrees, but so we're getting plenty of cold air. And it was my dumb mistake, 50.9, that caused me all my own problems. So a word to the wise: make sure that you have the right hose connector for the right can. One's for punctured cans and one's for self-sealing cans. And they don't mix and match. I found that out the hard way. So hope this helps somebody out, and see you next time.